this is Cuddles, and welcome to the first of what I hope will be many live Planet Zoo Let's Plays. It's finally dropped. It's been a long month whilst we've waited for after beta finished, and now it's here and it's with us, and I have been so excited. So I've had a little look at the tutorial and I'm slowly going to play my way through, but I could not wait to get my hands on franchise mode. So the dilemma is with us. What zoo do I start with first? I've named my franchise. It's called Cuddles Inc. because I'm very imaginative. And where in the world are we going to go? Well, what I wanted to do was to play my first franchise zoo somewhere that we hadn't been before. Somewhere warm, somewhere cozy, just to take us away from this cold winter weather that we're experiencing at the moment. So I've decided it's time to go tropical. And I've got a love of South America. So that's where we're going to start on our franchise journey. The purpose of this first Let's Play for me is about getting to know the game again. It's about working out how franchise mode works and how I can best use the tools that Frontier have given us to create the zoo of my dreams. Now, that doesn't mean that your zoo straight away has to be aesthetically stunning. It just means that your zoo needs to work. So we're going to be finding out how we can make money in franchise mode, how we can make conservation credits in franchise mode, and how we can keep building and moving and changing our zoo until we are aesthetically happy with how it looks. It doesn't have to be perfect from the start, and that's kind of what I want to show everybody. From the start, what you need to be worried about is that you've got everything in place and that you're good to go. Now, first things first is your guests need to be able to enter your zoo. Now, that doesn't mean that as we establish our first franchise zoo, that we're going to build a massive entrance plaza for them. All we need to do is establish that they can get through the gates and that there is a nice wide access path for them to come in on. Now, pathing in this game, very much like Planco, it's a little bit tricky until you can get your head around it. And you'll see that actually quite often I have to keep clicking and moving stuff around until I'm happy with the pathing. But what I want to do is create a big wide space without any gaps in it. In order to do this, I'm going to use the grid system. This is the only positive thing about the pathing tools, to be honest with you. However, if you really want to know more about pathing, you could actually have a quick look at the video that Grim did on it for us. Now, the grid system actually allows you to make nice wide paths, and I've chosen here the tiles because I think aesthetically they're going to suit our South American zoo. But all I am doing at this point is creating a large path, which will eventually, and I mean way down the line when we've got way more money, turn into the entranceway, the very grand tropical entranceway to our Cuddles Tropico Zoo. But you don't want to watch me fiddle around and OCD over a path, so we're just going to quickly skip through some of this for you. We now have a nice wide entranceway that all our guests can make their way into our zoo. Next thing we need to do is create a safe space for all those ugly buildings that we're going to need for our first few exhibits and enclosures. And the best place to do this, and this is Cuddles' first money saving tip, is right next to the entranceway. The reason for this? Free power. You don't need to put down the power station yet if you plop your buildings just there, just out of view of the guests. So what do we need to do? We just cleared up some trees in order that we can actually create ourselves a little line of buildings. So we need a little bit of staff pathing in order to allow our workers to get down to these buildings that we're about to create. Again, staff pathing is amazing. It wasn't in Planco, and I think it should have been, because actually it means that no guests can go along these paths and get in the way of your workers. So again, I've used the grid system to start my pathing. Now, my very first start out on zoos, it actually shows I love straight lines. I will, as we further develop this zoo, try and develop a few more curves, but initially straight lines are cheap and they work. First building that you need to place in your zoo, if you want to garner any kind of aesthetics that Frontier have already created for us, is going to have to be the workshop. The workshop and the mechanic who works in there will release all of the blueprints that you're going to want to drop down in your zoo. Until you get established at creating your own kind of aesthetic, these are the best things to make you feel satisfied that your zoo is going to look pretty. Unfortunately, startup, we need to use the ones that are provided for us, and they are ugly as sin, but who cares? They're going to be hidden behind bushes and nobody's going to see them, and eventually we're going to replace and delete this entire row of buildings. So we put down our workshop, and then we actually get our first member of staff, and he's going to be our mechanic. Until this point, I've actually had the entire franchise mode on pause, because what's the point of time passing until you've got a member of staff who you need to pay and who you actually want to start doing the job. First job I'm setting him off on, well, I'm intrigued because the new Asia theme just looks stunning, so we want to have a proper look at that. So we're going to set our new mechanic off, and he's going to have a little look into Asia. In order that Emma is going to actually keep working for us, we need to put him down the staff room. So that's your next important building to place. Staff, they need a rest. They do need a break. So get your staff room down as a matter of urgency. They will use this naturally, but without it, they will actually just stop working for you. So drop it down, and I always like to have it near a priority. And at the moment, my new mechanic called Emma is my priority because he's going to be giving me access to buildings that I want to use instead of these ugly ones. Next building that's going to be super important to you is actually the trade centre. Without the trade centre, we can't get any animals in the building. It actually remains locked at the bottom of your screen. So you can't go into the trade centre or the exhibit trade area without one. Also, this gives you storage for the animals that you're going to want to keep until you can place them somewhere. Now, we're going to go into more detail about that in the next as we go and establish ourselves and we get ourselves our first animals. So, once again, I'm carrying on with my staff pathing, and I'm going to set this up on the grid and try and keep this looking nice and neat. It never lasts for long. Give everybody access to the buildings, because without access, Emmett can't get into his workshop or his staff room for his cup of tea. Then what do we need to think about? Well, the next most important building is the quarantine building. Now, in comparison to Beta, where this actually was a defunct building, you could put it down, but you didn't need it. Now, you seriously do. And we will go into more depth, but I would not recommend bringing an animal into your franchise zoo without putting it through quarantine. Now, I have had a little look on Sandbox. Sandbox, it doesn't matter, but it does seriously matter in franchise mode. So drop your quarantine building. Next door to your quarantine, you're going to want to place your vet surgery. It doesn't have to be next door, but it's convenient. And you'll notice at the moment that the only member of staff we have so far recruited is still Emmett. He is busy researching the themes that we want, whilst we just establish all the buildings that we're going to need. Now, you can see here I've run out of pathing, but I decided actually let's just get the buildings down and we can work out the pathing later on, because do you know what, it never quite works out right the first time, and I'm not going to hide that from you. You might as well see how rubbish I am at establishing the startup of a zoo. So what else are we going to need? Well, I intend to put down an enclosure pretty quickly because I need something for my guests to have a look at. So we're going to need a zookeeper hut. No point getting a big one, we might as well just put down the small one for now. You can have zookeepers sharing one hut for the first few enclosures and exhibits that you put down. So just put down the cheap small hut. Now, we've got them all down. They're a little neat row. They don't look very pretty, but we don't really care. And now I need to fix that pathing. And I'm just not always very good at this. I decided actually I need to delete the lot. And you have to click the delete key at the top. That allows you to delete it all. However, You can also, if you are in the pathing icon or pathing section, just right click on the bits of path that you want to delete, which is easier because then you don't have to unclick the delete path in order for it to work. Now, I'm being honest here, you're watching me trying to work this out. It's been a few weeks since I've played, and in all honesty, I've also not played Planco for a good couple of weeks as well, so my brain's not quite in it. However, eventually my OCDs sort themselves out and I can actually just about make myself a little bit of pathing that I'm happy with. And that's going to be the end of our first episode. So all we have done in this episode is we've established an entryway that our guests can come in. There's plenty of space as they start to build up, and we have down the essential buildings that we're going to need to start our Cuddles Tropico Zoo. Now in the next episode we need to get some animals in, because you know what, this is a zoo. This isn't a pathing episode or a how to plonk buildings down. It's a zoo, and the interesting stuff starts, and eventually I get my path happy and how I want to see it. Now thanks for watching. This is Cuddles.